Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. Caring about your world and the discerning nature that our listeners have. Joining us this hour is going to be Dr. Richard Alan Miller. And I must say, there's a love-hate relationship with some of you with Dr. Richard Alan Miller. This man is amazing in the knowledge, the depth of knowledge that he has. And we're going to talk to him about that. He was in a number of areas, by the way. He began working in the secret world of Navy Intel with SEAL Corporation and then the MRU in the late 60s. And his writings reveal a depth of knowledge and experience in alternative agriculture, physics, and metaphysics. He writes for Nexus Magazine. He does a lot of radio shows, and he joins us here today. He's the author of at least a couple of books. One is ESP Induction Through Forms of Self-Hypnosis and Power Tools, which is what he utilized to train the Navy SEALs. Joining us, Dr. Richard Alan Miller, thank you so much. I appreciate your joining us today, sir. And I understand you have some breaking news that we need to get to. So please, welcome to the Power Hour.
Good morning, Joyce. I thought I had another hour, and I was in the middle of trying to prepare a white paper for you for upload. You'll get that in the middle of the show. I have a video. You wanted to talk about structured water. And
okay, let me just add. Let me stop you. Dr. Miller, can you hear me? Okay, yes. Now you're going to have to be kind of receptive to listening to what I have to say, too. I think, John, we need some volume on him. I'm not able to hear him. Okay, he's getting some volume for you, and I think you need some volume from me.
Just like that. How's that?
Okay, well, he's trying to get some volume up for both of us.
Okay, good. I hear you loud and clear. You wanted to talk about structured water, and there has been some breaking. By the way, your show last week on Fukushima was excellent. I even listened to it, and I don't have time to do that, and it was wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
You did a good job on that one. And there's been, since, some breaking news to add to that. It goes on and on. However, I am prepared to talk about structured water with no problem.
Okay. All right.
Wherever you want to go.
Okay, let's start with the breaking news, because I think that's important that we get that out of the way while we've got listeners that may have to leave later on that want to hear what you have to say. So let's start with that.
You bet. Well, the breaking news today is that TEPCO has the primary manager that has resigned as of last night, and they're going to appoint a new manager this morning. And the big question is, why? Well, that's because everything coming out of Japan right now is false flag and disinformation. They have not been telling us the truth since the original event that occurred back in 2011. And actually, the scare tactics that Turner broadcast and others are using are disinformation. You can refer to Suspicious Observer and several other people on the net that can talk more detail about that. The problem is much worse than anybody's been led to believe. And right now, Turner and others are using this scare tactic. There's nothing out there that's real right now. And to get really good intel, even I, working military, I'm having difficulty. So,
okay, let me just add. Let me add the caveat with Turner. I have the same feelings. I have the same concerns that you do, and I'm glad to hear you reinforce that.
Well, but you're right on it, Joyce. And actually, the thing is getting way out of control.
Well, it has been for a long time. But this announcement of a change now, this guy was he was TEPCO. He was TEPCO's chairman of the board. Is that correct?
Last night.
Yeah, chairman of the board resigned last night.
Yes. And they're going to appoint someone new this morning. Oh, gosh whiz, I wonder why.
Now, let me ask you this. What possible reason might you think this might be an important situation, other than, obviously it's the event of the world?
They're going to finally have somebody that's going to take the responsibility of probably disclosing the full scope of what actually has happened. I sent you a paper on not on TEPCO, on the Navy. I won't say it's Navy, but I'm Navy. We have algorithms that we use to listen to the chatter on the internet. It picks up keywords, and then from those keywords and the repetitiveness of it and the way they're structured, determine accurately the future. And I sent you a 4-pager on that saying that we're in an extinction event as it is right now.
Wait a minute. Extinction event. Now,
that
define.
Means no life on Earth.
Okay, so there's no question about what you're meaning.
No.
An extinction event means...
Yeah, I'm not going to say it is an extinction event. I'm saying that our algorithms are suggesting that, and they're very accurate. Now, that's where the structured water comes in, because once we understand how to structure and restructure water, we may have a back door.
All right.
At this juncture, I don't want to be a doom and gloomer. I'm always trying to put a positive spin on things where there's ways out of this pickle. And at this juncture, it's going to require every single listener listening at this moment to become proactive. It is not going to happen otherwise. And while this is all happening, now we have the geoengineering that's changing the weather pattern, and if that grid were to go down today, how many people do you think would die because of the freezing?
I hate to even think.
Well, there it is. Read it and weep. That has been semi-orchestrated.
All right, we've got now this possible extinction event. You're saying from the algorithms on the internet that point to that. What do you think can be done when you're talking about structured water? What can we all do? What empower us a little bit at this point, Dr. Miller, as to what we can do?
It's metaphysical, and it's and here I am trying to write about it as a physicist, and I'm uncertain even with myself because I'm in discovery. The direction I'm going is with what is called the non-local mind in a holographic universe. For you, you might best understand that as the internal landscape of the collective unconscious. It's not about individuals anymore. It's about the group thought of what we think is going on. It's been some kind of movement in man, whether it was orchestrated from external, like aliens or whatever, or not. What's happening is our country, our planet is being ruled by a bunch of sociopaths that are creating a darker element within the psyche of mankind. And the radiation is just the tip of the iceberg. The white paper that I sent you on the radioactive mutant zombie apocalypse is fairly accurate. The second page talks about the ultimate chain reaction and the timelines that are going on. And from 2011 through 2020 will be a transition to chaos. And we're going to see that in financial money. We're going to see that in the air we're breathing. We're going to see that in the water we're drinking and the food that we're eating. And we've talked about GMOs, we've talked about chemtrails and the geoengineering part. Now what's happened is they've developed a new form of barium oxide that is down in the nanoparticle, which means it's way more efficient in taking moisture out of the air in ice crystals. And that's why, like Grants Pass, Oregon, where I live, our normal water table at this time of this moment should be around 42 inches. We've had only 16. And there is no snow in the mountains. Here we are going into the middle of January.
Oh, my goodness.
Page 1. The real producing economy is going to collapse in the next 10 years. World War III, there will be a nuclear, biological, and chemical thing. They tried to do it in Iraq, and somehow the American public voted it down, but that didn't mean they didn't try to do that. And the reason is that war is good for business. It actually creates a cash flow. The problem is it's going to take out a large chunk of population. That's okay, they say, because there's too many people in the world.
All right, so we're looking now at a possible extinction event. We're looking at, of course, this polar, Operation Polar Freeze is what I call about it. I mean, Operation Deep Freeze, because it is by design, it appears. And we've got weakening of the target or softening of the target of the people. And I still want to say...
Everybody's afraid.
Yeah, everybody is.
Quite what to do, bioremediation. What do you do now? And that's part of what I can try to do. Now, in terms of structured water, your internal landscape, your belief systems, and assumed truths determine your health internally, because it's set like a motto might suggest there is somehow our thought restructures the water inside our body and our minds. Now, what is structured water? I'm going to send you a video that's unbelievable. They have a hose where the water's falling down in a nice stream, and then they hit it with sound, and watch what happens next. And once you see that, you'll understand what we are trying to suggest about structured water. Water itself is a very small molecule. In fact, water is almost smaller than the helium atom. So with that said, it's a very fine thing. You can see the structuring and all the different forms of snowflakes when it freezes. That is locking in things like intentionality and belief systems. And with that comes your health. And, you know, if you've got water inside an organ that has what we say healthy thoughts impregnated into it, you're going to be healthy. And then if you have a doubt, that's going to occur. And sickness is related to emotional states of consciousness.
I hope you all heard what he just said. We've got to go to this. Okay, we got to go to this 4-minute break. I hope you all heard what he said. This is not new age woo-woo stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is old age stuff. We need to pay attention. We'll be back 4 minutes with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Welcome back to the Power Hour, ladies and gentlemen. We all need each other, and that's what this is about. We all need each other. Why? Because we have a job to do. Now, we're getting a different perspective from our guest today, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and I appreciate so much his approach to this. Now, remember, this man trained Navy SEALs, and he's talking about the collective unconscious. It is so amazing when we learn and when we understand more powers that may be available to us. And don't lock that into, well, that's not what Scripture says, and therefore I can't do that because that would be of the devil. Please, let go of that right now. Let's listen to what he has to say. Please define what you mean by this collective unconscious of the people.
It is the numinous, the not-I part of self that we're all striving toward in becoming God-like. Not God, but more toward God. That would mean like apocalypse. Joseph Campbell said accurately that when you see the kingdom of the Father on earth, the apocalypse has already occurred. It is perpetual in its potential. Now, what that actually means is that an apocalypse is part of our overall belief system in man. Some people believe it a little bit like this. Some people believe it a little bit more like that. That forms the whole or body of the belief systems of what man's capable of. That sets up the rules of how a physical plane can work and how it cannot work. Your belief systems, in other words, I have said this in a long time ago that if you were a staunch Christian and 2 aliens walked in the door in the movie What the Bleep, the question is, would you be able to see those aliens? That was the shaman that was able to see the ship on the horizon, whereas other people that were looking at the ocean, because they had no concept of looking for something like that, they didn't see it. And so that is how beliefs shape reality and what is and is not possible. And in the collective of all of us, you know, you, me, and everyone else, the Bible, whatever, all of that structures the possibilities of what man can do and become or not. And that's the part where each of us, it's the power of one. They used to say, if you wish to change the world, you first change yourself, and the world changes you. That would suggest that everything starts from the inside. And that's imaginal psychology, where it says imagination is reality, and physical experiences of it are your upper brain making your belief systems true by what it observes and what it filters out.
Okay, now let me take it a step further. Now, if we listen to what Scripture said and the Messiah talking to us, I think he told us in Scripture we could be doing a whole lot more than we're doing right now, that we could do just about anything.
Even you are able to go even further than myself, in a sense. That's primarily from a Jungian point of view, that dying as a what do they call that? I've lost the word. It's you're sacrificing yourself for something greater is a low level of psychological awareness. All saints in history said that you need to control the mind. That's the purpose of meditation. And that sets up the purity of internal landscapes. Let me give you an example. If I chose to want to be honest because I was afraid of being busted, that will create belief systems inside me that will cause a bunch of different things to possibly happen. However, if I wanted to be honest because that's what I wanted to become, now there is a purity of the spirit in terms of intent. And that's the part which all of us must now realize, that the physical world is not really real. Most of us worry about things like our rent and the day-to-days, and we lose the bigger picture of where.
Okay, we got to go to this break. Got to go to this break. We got a 3-minute break. We'll be right back with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Stay tuned to the Power Hour. It's all about the truth as we can find it, and we got to go to some maybe less inspected areas, if you will. We have to find some areas that maybe we have been sort of told not to go to, or they were bad, or they were evil, or they are of the devil, or whatever. And it turns out a lot of these can have tremendous amount of power. I recently did a meditation on something very similar to what Dr. Miller is saying here, and it brought me to tears. It was so powerful. There are things out there we don't know about that can be of good. And it's up to our determination if they are of good or of evil. Dr. Miller, go ahead with what you were talking about, because I really... Oh, by the way, first of all, tell us how you can get your books.
Yes, I have a website called oak-publishing.com. It's Oak Publishing with a hyphen in there, oak-publishing.com. And then, of course, my name, richardallenmiller.com.
ALAN.
I was very fortunate to have a broader worldview of how to assimilate my physics. When I didn't find answers in physics, what I did was I went up north to New York City College and I studied under Gershom Scholem. I studied Old Hebrew and Greek and did my own translations as a Hermetic Kabbalist, trying to look for answers in the old Bibles. I didn't find them there, but I found discrepancies in the different translations that led me to become more aware of how I might want to interpret things like love. Love, originally by the Greek, was eros, philo, agape, and telema. And telema was the love of will or purpose. That's why you're here. You are to discover your purpose. It's sort of in metaphor like you've given up your memory in an agreement with yourself or whatever to try to purify and go toward your purpose in life, to discover that. And James Hillman, one of my teachers, wrote a book called The Soul's Code, In Search of Character and Calling. Character could be seen somewhat like spirituality, not what you do, but how you do it, the quality in which you go about your personal belief. It is my belief that is how you get closer to the Lord. Not what you believe, but how you go about that belief. Now, there is a challenge for everyone. And basically, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. They just want to put it off for a little while. It's now 3 milliseconds to midnight. It's time for everybody to get off the couch. If everybody got proactive, I think the first thing that needs to happen taken as a group mentat is to turn off every switch there is in nuclear reactors. All the nuclear reactors like Daiichi are all over 20 years old. They're all leaking. We're getting news reports of one in South Carolina. Hanford is most likely responsible for all the death along the Pacific coast, not Fukushima, not yet. However, they're all leaking, and that's why they want to build more of them. They want to build newer ones. The problem is that these forms that General Electric have designed were supposed to be clean energy, are not, and the real reason that Fukushima is becoming an extinction event is because they were storing weapons-grade plutonium. Japan was not supposed to have a weapon. When they bought those islands from Russia up in the Kumchak Sea, China had issues, and that's why Japan was armoring up when this event happened. Now, some would suggest that this event was perpetrated on purpose to catch them with their pants down. I don't know that that's true. I think it was caused by a CMA as a situation waiting to happen.
Okay, a CMA being what? A CMA being what?
Coronal mass ejection. Now, everything that happens on this Earth is mostly from what the sun is doing. You know, it isn't man changing the weather as much as the sun is. Of course, man is in there trying to become God, but that, to cause that kind of... The reaction happened off land and was an actual shift in the plate that caused the tsunami, which then caused the die-down. Some have suggested there was some software that was used on Iran to try to screw up their reactors by, with software viruses. That has been proposed with TEPCO. I don't know about that. What I do know is that the whole thing is like a house of cards, and each day it gets worse. Turner, the steam, listen, what's happening is, so that everybody understands about the steam, what's happening is that the groundwater has become radioactive with leakage from the plant, and that has heated up, and when it rains, you're going to have steam in the hot spots. And that's what it is. And you can tell whether it's dangerous or not by the color. That's why Reactor 3, when they said it was just steam in 2011 when it exploded, it didn't do that. That was a minor total meltdown explosion that was not reported to the public, and plutonium particulate is now being discovered in Arizona and Colorado from the fallout in 2011. It's my guess we got dusted way worse than anybody was told, and now, because they withheld that information, they're trying to lead it up that we've got an event that's happening now. The problem is it happened in 2011, and everybody got dusted then. It's already over.
All right, at this point, now if I were to ask you a very direct question, what can we do for those people out there that are finding this very hard to accept, given the fact they've got young children, they're just starting their families, they're just wanting to get married, whatever? What can people do? And where do they find information on how we can come together in the right spiritual format to accomplish something? Prayers haven't worked up to this point. Now what do we do?
Well, that's you, Joyce. People need to be listening to you, and then you need, with your wonderful newsletter that you put out each day, offer direction. And there'll be new direction every day that you can give links to where they understand things. Now, let's put it a different way. It's time for everybody to get off the couch and go to work on themselves. You're not going to change the world until you change yourself. That's the way it works. And the problem is most people are lazy and want to put it off until tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. It has to happen today. And probably what you could do first is start a movement toward people signing petitions to have all nuclear energy switches turned off immediately. Once that's done, then we can focus on how to clean up the mess that the previous technologies have created.
I mean, and I hate to play, wait a minute, I hate to play devil's advocate, but have we not been doing that for years? Have there not been anti-nuclear people out there doing that for years?
Yeah, but only, 1% of the population, not 20. And by the way, guess what? If you wanted to close down Walmart, the figure used to be that 10% that used Walmart would have to cease using Walmart as a place that they shop. That's how you close Walmart down. Well, that figure is now only 5%. If 5% of the people that are listening to this broadcast right now were to stop using Walmart, if they use it on a regular basis, if they stopped using it, it would close Walmart down. And that is exactly what is happening now with Monsanto. Monsanto is on the run. And what they'll do, it's like that commercial about Dorito corn chips. Don't worry, we'll make more corporations. Transcontinental corporations, they're trying to have laws now, while all of this panic is on Fukushima, they're trying to pass laws where it's illegal. That corporations can change the rights of human beings. And those, I'll send you some links on that. It's in one of my, I think it's in the 6th on my diary entry for the 6th. I sent you the 8th, which is today, as I've just started doing it. These are diary entries that I make of what I think are important news items. You do an excellent job on your own there. You cover a broader range of topics than I do.
But let me say, at this point, now you said for us on the Power Hour, for me on the Power Hour, now that is a huge responsibility, and I am humbled. I'm humbled by. Let me finish. I am humbled by what you say. However, I need help, and I need support, and I need instruction, and I need people that we can go to have as guests on the program that will drive us in those directions or lead us in those directions, so we can choose whether or not we want to believe that, do that. Just the idea of the story about water and the impact that words can have on water. And if anybody doesn't understand that, they need to see the visual, the pictures of water being changed by words. Now, if we can
use some important physics links that might be useful, because while Emoto is a little zen for me, in fact, he had some Shinto Buddhists actually clean polluted water by just sitting there meditating.
Did he really? Now, wait a minute. Why is he too zen for you? I didn't think anybody was too far out for you. I thought you were out there on the outer edge.
I'm a physicist. I can't just walk away from the physical world. I have to somehow have some sort of connection between how it works up here in my mind and how it works down here in the real world. And that's what I'm about. And so I have to be a little more rigorous in my approaches toward the spiritual, unfortunately. It's one of my burdens that I have to carry. It's not easy being me, trying to find an out that isn't metaphorically related or linked to a physics model is very difficult for me. Structured water, as Jerry Pollack was my lead. He's the one that hired me when at the University of Washington when 50,000 PhDs were laid off in one day in Seattle. They had I was a physicist, just like everybody else was at Boeing. When they lost the B-1 contract, there were 50,000 scientists that were unemployed in one day. They had a big sign in Seattle, last person out of town, please turn off the lights. And Jerry hired me on the spot, and that's when I started working true military, and I worked out of anesthesiology. And Jerry's book, The Fourth Phase of Water, is excellent. He's on athearforce.com on a fundraiser so he can continue his work. I think that Jerry's work, I didn't work for Jerry, I worked under him. He was my lead. I had higher security clearances and worked down the hall in lockdown where I was. But Jerry has continued to work, and now he's Professor Emeritus in anesthesiology at the University of Washington. And his book, The Fourth Phase of Water, is possibly the most simplest way to understand. It has to do with surface tension and the way water goes up against a foreign surface. And the difference is different surfaces, like iridium, have a different relationship to water than plutonium. And so with that understanding, we can now possibly use the nature of water as a way to begin cleaning things from up on down into the physical world. That means the spiritual part of it, where your intentionality becomes more clear. And that's why once you discover your purpose, none will say nay. That is what the universe wants you to be doing, is your purpose. And all the things that you create, karma and all of that, is you're not quite getting the dialogue between your higher self and your lower one on why you are here and what you are supposed to be doing. I should caveat this by also saying that every single person has something important to do, and that none of us get out of here until each of us do it. And if you don't do it this lifetime, no problem. Time isn't real, and you just get to come back as a slug and do it until you do figure it out. That's a metaphor, of course, but in fact, that's what it's about, discovering why you are here. And once you do that, you have to then become proactive toward the purity of that.
And it's going to be up to each one of us to find our own way. I can't find the way for you all. I can find teachers, and I can find people that can relate to these issues, and that's a great gift in being able to have this show to draw us all together.
That's what you do. That's what your importance is, and what you do is try to motivate every single person into doing something toward the betterment of this collective unconscious aspect of self.
And I appreciate your guidance and direction also on some of the people that you know that you can lead us to, because you've been down this road and you see it in a lot different way. I mean, how many people are, they're talking about duct tape on Fukushima.
and peeling wire. Yeah. I saw that article.
And you're talking about something that can have an incredible impact. There was that book about the butterfly's touch or whatever, that, that the butterfly's wings can affect something a great distance away. Now, do you accept that as reality, or is that kind of
Everything has a consequence, as the one gangster told that kid in that one movie about the butterfly effect. Everything has an effect, and it's all about intentionality, purpose, and love. Different kinds of love. Love, philema, or telema, which is the correct pronunciation of it, telema, was the highest form of love in the Greek culture. By the way, I'm about to tell you that I think that the Japanese culture is going to be lost in history, much like Atlantis and Greece.
And the reason?
Ronin is a wonderful movie. It's the same cast, by the way, that was used, except for Keanu Reeves as opposed to Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. This is the end of a culture that was rich in content. And we're going to watch it go like Greece or Atlantis. It's going to be gone. I don't even know that the island itself is going to be around much longer. They were already in economic collapse before this, and that's part of that 4-page white paper that I sent to you based on algorithms that are being used. That's, by the way, they use Clifford algebra on this rather than ONS like Cliff High and some of the others. We use...
Okay, now translate that for me. What you just said, what does that mean in our language, Power Hour language?
Yeah, good. It's when you and I talk, there are certain keywords that we've used that set the intent and quality of the communication between us. All the rest of the words are called redundancy coefficient. It's, if you catch my drift, if you blah, blah, blah. We have a lot of extra words, but there are keywords that are used. Using those keywords can accurately predict what's going to happen next, because they're part of belief systems and assumed truths.
Okay, we got to go to this break. We'll be right back. I am loving this.